ENCA's Annika Larsen joins us live from Parliament now. Annika, good morning to you. So talk to us about what the President is going to say about why he's delayed signing this political party funding bill into law, especially now on the back of the controversy with his political campaign having been funded by a controversial company, Bosasa.
That's right. Well, the President is here for the state visit from the German head of state, the German President. That's why the red carpet's being rolled out. And I have with me presidential spokesperson Kusela Diko, who will very kindly stand in a bit of rain for us and answer a few questions ahead of the state visit. I know you've got a lot on your plate. Thank you, Kusela, for joining us. Kusela, there are a few issues about Bosasa that are just confusing. Help me here. The President speaks to his son, Andile. Andile says, I've done consulting work for Bosasa. They paid me 500,000 rand. And then it turns out that that 500,000 rand was actually for his campaign. How many amounts of 500,000 rand were paid by the Watson family to the Ramaphosa family?
Okay, thank you so much, Annika. Maybe let's start off by clarifying that there is no money that was paid by the Watson family to the Ramaphosa family. You remember what had happened was the President was answering questions in the National Assembly. There was a question about VBS Bank. Now, the leader of the opposition was following up on that question, where he then spoke about an affidavit of monies that were paid to Andile Ramaphosa from Bosasa. I think he said Andile Ramaphosa's trust account. Now, the President, based on information that he had at that time that Andile does business with Bosasa, he confirms such payment, and he confirms that a contract exists between Andile Ramaphosa as well as Bosasa, and he basically says that that was the money, what the money was for. You remember, Annika, before the day ended that day, Andile Ramaphosa had already come out to say that there was no money that was paid to him. The President subsequently learned that it was incorrect. That money was not money meant for Andile Ramaphosa. It was money that his campaign managers had raised during his candidacy for ANC president. Now, he then thought it was necessary that he clarifies that to the Speaker, to say he answered based on what he thought was being referred to. And you'll know that a supplementary question is unlike an original question. You have no information at your disposal. You're literally thinking on your feet. And he did say that he had been aware of this contract. He has not backtracked on the fact that Andile Ramaphosa does business or had done business with Bosasa. However, this particular amount that was being referred to was not that one that came as a proceed of that contract.
But he had a conversation with Andile, and Andile had shown him a contract which was for consulting to Bosasa, not in South Africa, he was clear to point out. So there was 500,000 rand paid to Andile for consultancy work.
I can't confirm the amount that would have been paid to Andile Ramaphosa. And if you remember, the President never said this particular amount. He said, I've spoken to Andile about this. And when we inquired with the President in terms of what he meant, he said, at the time where the Bosasa debacle was in the public domain, he became aware that Andile was doing business with Bosasa, and that's when he sought clarity from Andile in terms of his relationship and hence the contract. So as he was answering this question in the National Assembly, without any documentation to assist them, he immediately referred to that discussion that he had had with Andile. He's felt that with a clear conscience, he cannot allow that to stand on the record, and he then sought to clarify it as he did with the National Assembly.
But he had said that he'd seen a contract between Andile and Bosasa. Okay, so is there any more money that you know of that has been paid by Bosasa to the President's campaign of 500,000 rand or to Andile of more than 500,000 rand? Or are we looking about 1 million in total from the Watson family?
No. What we do know at this point in time is that 500,000 seems to be the totality of what Bosasa would have donated to the campaign. You'll know that the President has spoken to his former campaign managers to ask them that they must do a full audit of whatever monies that they would have received. He's also asked that if there are any monies that seem to be of a dubious nature, he would prefer that he's not associated with that. They have also said on the record that at the time the money was paid, at the time the President was answering questions in the National Assembly, he was not aware of the payments. So as it relates to Andile Ramaphosa, the nature and scope and extent of his business, I would not know. But the President did say that Andile does have a contract with Bosasa. They do business outside of the country, and South Africa was expressly excluded to ensure that there was no conflict of interest. But I don't know the nature of their relationship beyond that.
Do you think it's, to be fair then, do you think it's fair that the President was caught a little bit on the back foot and he was too hasty in answering that question?
I think it would be fair to say that given the fact that he had not had an opportunity to reflect fully on what he was being asked, he may have been hasty in the response, but he has subsequently gone back to correct it. And you know, Annika, how it happened in Parliament at that time is that Mr. Maimane is waving this document around, and really the President did not even have a chance to study that particular document. So he just responded on the basis of information that he had at his fingertips at that point. But it has since been clarified, and let's just put it on the record once again. There is no family trust where monies from Busasa came to Andile and then to the President or any such. There was a campaign that was being managed by those who were managing it. Unfortunately, I don't speak on their behalf. And they were the ones who came to the President and sought to clarify what had happened and given him the information that he has now since shared with the public.
The campaign has said that it's going to return the money back to Bosasa. Will that come out of the President's personal account, or who's going to pay back that money?
Well, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know, Annika, in the sense that you know, we don't deal very closely with the campaign and the issues around that campaign. We have, though, been taken into confidence to say that those structures they don't exist beyond conference. So I doubt if there's formalities that still exist in terms of how that money would be paid. I really wouldn't know, and the President hasn't given any indication. But I do want to say, Annika, because I know you've also been asking that this does pose a problem just in terms of transparency around funding of political campaigns, especially inter-party political funding. And those are issues that perhaps not comprehensively are being covered by the political party funding bill, which bill, before you ask, is sitting on the President's desk for him to consider and signing into law, I'm sure within the next couple of days, a few weeks or so. So that is work that is being done to ensure that there's greater transparency. The public do know, but also the reason why they never informed the President of this money was to ensure that you do not have a situation where any donors feel that the President is beholden to them and there's some reciprocal intent that's supposed to happen. So I think it is things that we still need to work on and refine as we look at political funding in South Africa.
That piece of legislation has been sitting on the President's desk since March. If it's not enacted into law and ratified by the end of this month, it's unlikely it'll happen before the 2019 elections, and the Constitutional Court was very clear in saying that voters have the right to know who is funding their parties, and really politics is about money. You say it's in the next few days. Can we put that on the record and say, get some kind of commitment from you, via your principal?
I know that the President had requested a memo which looks at the constitutionality of the bill. He had also requested that the process that the bill had followed was as thorough as possible, and that information has now been provided to the President. But you see, it's not just about who funds the political parties. It also looks at the funding itself of political parties by the public. So it proposes, amongst others, a representative party funding, which is money that is supposed to come from the IEC, and we have not given the IEC any new money ahead of elections. So those are the consultations that have been happening, and even if you were to sign it by the end of this month, the implementation date might not necessarily be but before the elections.
A very quick one. In your trip to Europe last week, did you get lots of questions about the Section 25 amendment on the expropriation of land without compensation from people in Europe, and do you think you're likely to deal with it today with the German President?
I have no doubt it will be dealt with. I think everywhere where the President has gone, it has been a matter of great interest, both in South Africa and abroad. And the President has been consistent. I think his message is simple. It says that for us to ensure effective transformation and stability in South Africa, we need to ensure that we advance a comprehensive land reform program. So the amendment of Section 25 to explicitly allow for the expropriation of land without compensation is part and parcel of a comprehensive land reform program. That's what he's been repeating, and it's a message that is actually well received, with many heads of state, ordinary people that the President is speaking to, who say as long as it's within the rule of law, it follows what your constitution demands, then they would support such a program, understanding the history of this country.
Kusela Diko, thank you so much for availing us, as usual, very kindly ahead of a state visit by the German president. And I think we've clarified some of the Bosasa issues. I know that the opposition party, some of them want an ad hoc inquiry into the donations. And you heard it there, Koli, that although consultations are still in place with regards to the political party funding legislation, it could be signed into law fairly soon.